3 days before the apocalypse, my 3 roommates and I were reborn together. We decided to stock up on supplies and unexpectedly awakened a powerful supernatural storage ability. Each of us received a key linked to the same private pocket dimension. It was more than a storage space, a fully furnished villa stood inside it. Outside, it was full of zombies. But the girls of room 503 were eating hot pot in the dorm. I opened my eyes and immediately checked my phone. The time on my phone showed May 31, 2027, 3 days before the apocalypse. The horrors of the previous life seemed still fresh in my mind. Before I could snap out of it, I saw my 3 roommates jump out of bed at once. The 4 of us locked eyes and read the same message from each other's gaze. Everyone had been reborn. Without a word, we each reported our balances. 5,000, 8,000, 10,000. I only have 500 yuan. Yemo looked at us awkwardly. She was the poor student in our class. Usually quite frugal. It's okay. Let's max out all the online loans we can get now. After all, the apocalypse would hit in 3 days. And the network would be down. Who would care about paying back loans then? The 4 of us together managed to get over 500,000 yuan. Yemo and I were in charge of buying food, while Shenqian and Su Rushuan were responsible for daily necessities. What's this? Before leaving, I pointed at the key that had suddenly appeared on my desk. The other 3 also found keys on their desks. Then, a look of surprise spread across all our faces. The pocket dimension was enormous, with a large villa in the center and functioning water and electricity. We hurried out to stock up. Whenever no one was watching, we quietly transferred our purchases into the pocket dimension. Back in the dorm that night, we briefly discussed what we had bought. Yemo and I mainly got filling foods like bread, instant noodles, sausages, and rice, along with dozens of cases of bottled water, as well as vegetables and fruits. Time inside the pocket dimension stood still, making it perfect for preserving food. Meanwhile, Shenqian and Su Rushuan hoarded toilet paper, sanitary pads, change of clothes, toothpaste, toothbrushes, soap, power banks, chargers, and so on. After that, we each called our families. We agreed on a story. We said a serious infectious outbreak had hit the school, and told them to stock up on food, medicine, and daily necessities. We didn't dare say more, fearing that if our parents told relatives and friends, it might lead to unpredictable consequences. The painful experiences of the previous life constantly reminded us how terrifying human evil could be when the apocalypse came. With 2 days left until the apocalypse, we all chose to skip class without prior agreement and continued stocking up on supplies. I hid my identity and posted on the school's anonymous message board that a new wave of the pandemic was coming, urging everyone to stock up. That was all I could do. Whether anyone believed it was no longer my concern. Using the excuse that our dorm door was broken, we found a worker online and replaced the wooden door with the sturdiest security door. We paid the worker extra to reinforce the windows. When Shenqian and Su Rushuan returned, they handed out pepper spray, kitchen knives, batons, and other self-defense items to each of us. With 1 day left until the apocalypse, Yemo and I were buying medicine at a pharmacy when we noticed a commotion among the crowd outside the glass door. A middle-aged man suddenly collapsed without warning, foaming at the mouth and rolling his eyes. A young man approached to help, calling an ambulance, but then the fallen man abruptly got up, opened his mouth wide, and bit down on the young man's hand, instantly severing it. The middle-aged man chewed on the young man's hand as he lunged at him again. Screams erupted endlessly, and the crowd scattered in all directions. Yemo and I exchanged a glance, grabbed the medicine we had, and ran toward the exit. I quickly found the electric scooter we had bought earlier, and after we both got on, we sped toward the school. On the way, Yemo called Shenqian to tell them to return to the dorm immediately. The apocalypse had come early. Along the road, Yemo and I saw shops around us where zombies were attacking people. Traffic had come to a standstill. I dodged a female zombie charging at us, while Yemo turned around, back against mine, and swung a knife at the zombie rushing from behind. With the experience from our past life, we worked together relatively smoothly. After about half an hour, we finally reached the school gate. The school was in chaos. We rushed to the dorm building, abandoned the scooter, and sprinted into the dorm. When Yemo and I rushed into the dormitory, Shen Qian and Su Ruxuan had already arrived. Qian Qian and I were buying quilts when suddenly a zombie charged over and bit the shop owner's neck. We were so scared that we ran away immediately. Yemo was telling Shen Qian and Su Ruxuan about what had just happened to us. Taking advantage of the fact that the signal hadn't completely failed yet, we called our families to check in, confirmed that their safety and food supplies were fine, and told our parents not to trust anyone, including relatives and friends. The internet was flooded with videos of zombies biting people. At first, no one realized how serious the problem was. Influencers were still live streaming scenes on the streets, with screams and cries filling the audio. The zombies chased the crowds, who fled in panic, and then we saw people falling one after another as the zombies pounced and quickly devoured them. Then we saw the zombies chasing the streamer, who ran desperately, and the final frame showed the zombie's bloody mouth and a flesh and blood arm. Soon after, the network crashed. I put down my phone, but the screams from the video still echoed in my ears. From outside the dormitory door came the screams and cries of girls. They didn't stop all afternoon. People kept knocking on the dormitory door, but none of us made a sound. Blood seeped through the crack under the door, staining the white tiles red. As night fell, the commotion outside gradually quieted down. The girls in room 503 definitely have food. Look at the security door they just installed. They must have hidden a lot of stuff inside. A female voice sounded outside the door, followed by knocking. At first, none of us responded, but the knocking didn't stop and even grew louder. Shen Qian looked through the peephole, and her expression immediately changed. Then she took a kitchen knife out of the pocket dimension, secured the door chain, and opened the door a crack. Holding the knife, she threatened fiercely, "Li Lin, if you knock again, I swear I'll chop you to death." The girl outside was clearly frightened. "Shen Qian, is that you? Put down the knife. Let's talk nicely. I'm just too hungry. Can you give me something to eat? I haven't eaten all day." "No, get lost now. Or don't blame me for chopping you up." After saying that, Shen Qian immediately closed the door. But the knocking outside persisted relentlessly. "Shen Qian, how can you be so heartless? You're living well, eating and drinking, so why can't you share some with us?" Hearing the noise outside growing louder, Shen Qian was about to take the knife out again when I stopped her. "Fine, come in and get it," I said to those outside, then removed the door chain and opened the door a crack. Thank you. You're Shen Qian's roommate, right? You're much nicer than Shen Qian." Li Lin, along with her boyfriend and his friend, eagerly squeezed in. Shen Qian, Yemo, and Su Ruxuan hid in the corner. Once they were all inside, I signaled them to act. Then Shen Qian and Yemo raised their knives and struck. In the dim environment, no one knew how many times we slashed. We didn't stop until those people had gone silent. Su Ruxuan stood nearby, frozen in shock at the scene before her, at a loss. Yemo, Shen Qian, and I exchanged glances without a word, silently carrying those people out. After a moment, Su Ruxuan came over to help Shen Qian carry them out, quietly cleaning up the blood on the floor. Once we had finished cleaning the battlefield, we sat down on chairs to rest. "I'm sorry. I just couldn't do it. I've never killed anyone before." Su Ruxuan was the top student in our dorm. She was usually quiet, and only those who knew her well would see her lively side. "In my past life, Li Lin killed me. She manipulated me into searching for food every day, then shared everything with her boyfriend. In the end, she sold me to cannibals for a bag of instant noodles. I fought back with a knife, but there were too many of them, and I didn't survive." Shen Qian choked up as she recounted the scene from her past life, covering her face and sobbing. Su Ruxuan hugged Shen Qian, and they cried together. "In my past life, I couldn't find any food. I starved to death only a few days after the apocalypse began. Then we all chimed in, talking about our own experiences from our past lives. And before long, we fell asleep in each other's arms. Waking up in the morning, we quickly dealt with our breakfast and then divided up the tasks. Yemo and Su Ruxuan were responsible for inventorying the supplies in the pocket dimension. Shen Qian and I prepared the ingredients for lunch. We decided to have hot pot. It was already the third day of the apocalypse, and zombies were roaming throughout the dormitory area. The entire dormitory was eerily quiet. Outside the window, some people began tying bed sheets together to climb down and search for food. Others saw this and followed suit. Some, too weak, fell and became food for the zombies. Others were bitten by zombies that suddenly appeared at the windows, and their roommates didn't hesitate to let go of the ropes. Yemo, are you in there? That evening, a male face suddenly appeared outside the window of dorm 503. The guy was gripping the bedsheet rope, craning his neck to peer into the dorm. Yemo heard the voice and walked to the window. What do you want? I heard you have food. I haven't eaten in days. Give me anything, and later I'll take you out of the school and to the government survivor base. Gangzi said construction has already begun. All right. Wait there. Yemo agreed very readily, and the guy looked extremely excited. Soon, Yemo handed him a black plastic bag. Just as he was about to take it, Yemo pretended to slip, and the bag fell. Why didn't you catch it? There was food in there that I saved just for you. If the bag is gone, I have nothing else to give you. The guy looked at Yemo, then at the pitch-black ground below. Gritting his teeth, he climbed down to retrieve the bag. The darkness, like a monster's abyssal maw, quickly swallowed his figure. Not long after, a scream pierced the silent dormitory building. Then came the sound of zombies chewing, especially eerie in the night. Yemo glanced down at the ground, clapped her hands, and a faint, barely noticeable smile curled at the corner of her mouth. In my past life, he pursued me relentlessly. After the apocalypse, he manipulated me into trading my body for food. In the end, I killed him and then myself. This time, he finally paid for what he did, though he still died too easily. What was in the bag? Only our trash and a few leftover bones. That's why the zombies were attracted so quickly. I came over and took Yemo's hand. Shen Qian and Su Ruxuan also came over and held Yemo's hand. Though Yemo did not show it, we all knew she was hurting deeply. A month passed quickly. At first, some still hoped that the government would send rescue teams. But as days went by, the lack of food, the attacks of zombies, and the betrayal of roommates gradually consumed all hope of survival. I looked out the window. Every day, people jumped to their deaths. Some willingly ran out to become zombies. Others tried to drive out of the campus. Some succeeded, while others became food for the undead. The scorching heat filled the entire dormitory area with a nauseating stench, a mix of rotting corpses and decay that was unbearable. Water and electricity had long been cut off. Everyone was drenched in sweat. Yutong, do you think we can survive? Su Ruxuan stared out the window. Just moments ago, another girl from the neighboring dorm had jumped, her body splattering into a mess of flesh, the shocking red instantly staining the ground. The zombies rushed over excitedly and devoured her within minutes. All that was left on the ground were bloodstains, nothing else. We all knew that girl. She often visited our dorm, her round face always carrying a sweet smile. It was hard to imagine that someone so cheerful and optimistic would choose to end her life by jumping. I was silent for a long time. We will. We definitely will. That day, my phone, which had been silent for so long, suddenly rang. It was a message from the government. The southern base had been established, and survivors could migrate there. I thought the signal had returned and tried to contact my family, but the phone still showed no signal. I gathered everyone to discuss the next plan. There were many vehicles parked at the base of the teaching building. We could try to get one. Among the four of us, only Shen Qian and I knew how to drive, so we would take turns. At 5 a.m., just as dawn was breaking, the dormitory area was eerily quiet. We packed our things and left the room. I led the way, with Yemo bringing up the rear. As soon as we stepped out of the dorm, an overwhelming stench hit us, making us want to turn back immediately. The hallway was covered in bloodstains and scattered limbs, with no clear place to step. Su Ruxuan nearly vomited, but Shen Qian quickly handed her a glass of water. After a moment to recover, we set off. I carefully scouted the path, observing our surroundings, treading lightly as we descended the stairs. We finally made it out of the dormitory area and headed toward the teaching building. It took about 15 minutes to walk from the dormitory area to the teaching building. A few zombies were wandering along the way, searching for food. There were almost no living people left on campus, and they desperately craved fresh blood. I seized the right moment and successfully avoided the zombies on the road. When we reached the teaching building, I spotted an SUV. A dead man sat in the driver's seat, while a female zombie beside him was feasting on his body. Shen Qian and I exchanged glances, pulled out shovels from our space, and rushed over to knock the female zombie unconscious. Then, working together, we dragged the man out. Just as we were about to get into the car, we heard Su Ruxuan scream. Ah! My heart sank. The female zombie had woken up. Su Ruxuan was the closest to her, and the zombie lunged straight at her. The three of us immediately rushed over and pulled the female zombie off Su Ruxuan. Yemo raised his shovel and knocked the zombie unconscious again. Seeing the zombie horde staggering out of the teaching building, I quickly signaled the others to get into the car. Just as I closed the door, several zombies charged at us, their grotesque faces and gaping mouths trying to bite through the glass. Everyone held their breath. I reversed the car, then slammed on the accelerator, knocking down a few zombies and breaking through the encirclement. Su Ruxuan's scream had awakened the dormant zombie horde. Many zombies emerged from various buildings, all charging toward the vehicle. A few climbed over their companions' bodies onto the roof, relentlessly pounding on the windshield. I yanked the steering wheel, trying to shake them off. After finally dislodging two zombies, one clung on tightly, and no matter how many times I tried, I couldn't get rid of it. Seeing cracks forming on the glass, Shen Qian gritted her teeth, pulled a shovel from her space, and leaned out. With one hand gripping the roof and the other wielding the shovel, she struck at the zombie on top. When the zombie was distracted, I seized the moment and slammed on the brakes, sending it flying off. Just then, Yemo yanked Shen Qian back. A second later, a zombie rushing from the roadside would have bitten her neck. Shen Qian used the shovel to fend off zombies by the window, and I quickly rolled it up before speeding out of the campus. Once we hit the street outside, the surroundings fell silent again. The road was covered in blood and scattered remains, completely unrecognizable from its former bustling scene. We followed the signs onto the national highway. The highway was nearly empty, with only a few cars and zombies. I told Su Ruxuan and Shen Qian to go into the space and carefully check each other for injuries. Fortunately, there were none, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. We were about 2,000 kilometers from the southern base, which would take roughly 5 to 6 days, including breaks for rest and meals. I drove until noon, had a simple lunch, and then switched with Shen Qian to take the wheel. At night, we parked by the roadside and grabbed some bread and ham from the space for a quick meal. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have screamed this morning, putting everyone in danger, Su Ruxuan said, head down, not daring to look at us. Yemo and Shen Qian both stared at me, silent. I patted Su Ruxuan on the shoulder. We need to do desensitization training with you. It might be tough. Can you handle it? Su Ruxuan nodded vigorously. No problem. I can do it. I can't keep holding everyone back. In the apocalypse, lacking self-defense skills was too dangerous. We still had several days of travel ahead, and no one could guarantee there wouldn't be accidents. That night, Shen Qian and I went back to the space to rest, while Yemo and Su Ruxuan kept watch in the car, planning to catch up on sleep the next day. The next morning, after Shen Qian and I came out of the space, Yemo told us that a few zombies had appeared on the road during the night. She had Su Ruxuan face them alone with the shovel. Su Ruxuan killed 2 zombies, and Yemo later helped out. Shen Qian and I praised Su Rushuan, making her blush. Then I took over driving again. The fuel gauge showed we were running low. So Shen Qian and I discussed it and decided to check out a gas station first. We found the nearest one, which was deserted, but there seemed to be movement inside the store. Shen Qian and I exchanged a glance, grabbed our sticks, and woke up the sleeping Su Rushuan and Yemo. As I drove into the station, a burly man wielding an axe suddenly rushed out and blocked our path. He banged the axe on the hood, threatening us to get out. I rolled down the window. We just want to refuel. What are your terms? He spat. Pfft. You want gas? Hand over all your food. With that, he tried to pull me out of the driver's seat. I immediately rolled up the window, stepped on the gas, and prepared to drive off. Just then, another man came out of the store, shorter and with a sour, mean look. He scolded the burly man, ordering him to step back, then flashed us a fawning smile. Ladies, let's talk nicely. If you want to refuel, that's fine, just depends on how much supplies you can offer. I got out of the car, pretending to grab something from the trunk but actually pulling some expired bread and instant noodles from my space. The short man wasn't too pleased with the supplies, and I said we only had this much food, nothing more. He immediately whistled, and a group of men came out of the store, surrounding our car. A few of them were holding guns. Shen Qian had no choice but to secretly stow her baton back into her space, and all three of us were intimidated into getting out of the car. Once they saw we had surrendered, they quickly tied us up and forced us into the store. The store was filled with scattered shelves, but there were no supplies on them, only tools like axes and sticks. A few people were crouching in the corner of the store, apparently also passers-by who had been robbed. Boss, we only found these things in their car. We had left some food in the car earlier to avoid suspicion and keep the secret of the space hidden. The one called the boss was the short man from before. Not enough stuff. Then people will make up for it. These girls are all tender enough to squeeze water out of. I'll take this one, and you can split the rest among yourselves. The short man's lecherous gaze swept over me. The burly man was about to take Shen Qian and the others away when there was a commotion outside. The short man left one person to watch us and went out with the others, taking advantage of the guard's inattention. I pulled a knife from my space and cut my ropes. I signaled Shen Qian with my eyes and hands to get a knife from her space and cut her ropes. Once they were free, Shen Qian and I charged at the guard. I pressed the knife to his throat, and Shen Qian grabbed the baton from his hand. Tell me, where are your supplies stored? The man was visibly trembling. He pointed to a spot, a hidden warehouse door. I had Yemo and Su Rushuan go in and confiscate their supplies. Then I slit the man's throat with one swift motion. Just as we were about to leave, we heard whimpering from the people in the corner. I went over, cut their ropes, and let them go. As we exited the store, I grabbed the tools from the shelves on a whim, and luckily, there were even 2 guns among them. Outside, the gas station was in chaos. A small group of zombies had arrived, and the short man was leading his men in a fight against them. We found our car and drove off amid the confusion. After driving more than 10 kilometers from the gas station, my nerves finally began to relax. It feels so good to have survived. I was almost scared to death just now. Su Rushuan sighed. Yutong, you know what? We grabbed a lot of stuff from their warehouse, besides biscuits and pastries. There was gasoline and lubricant. We won't have to worry about running out of fuel anymore. Su Rushuan was ecstatic, chattering non-stop about the danger we had just faced. The tension and exhaustion from the journey seemed to ease at that moment. Later, when I trained Su Rushuan in desensitization, she was noticeably more motivated. The journey felt long and tedious. Shen Qian and I drove for another 3 days, and we were still over 100 kilometers from the southern base. We passed through a town, the only route to the southern base. Many vehicles were lined up, waiting to be inspected. At the checkpoint stood several men in uniforms holding guns, collecting a toll per person. Each person had to pay about 1 kilogram of rice and a bottle of water, or something of equal value. Ahead, a vehicle got into an argument with them and tried to force its way through. They shot out its tires and took everyone inside away. Seeing what happened, the vehicles behind gave up any ideas of resistance and obediently paid the toll. We paid the toll and entered the town. The situation inside was much better than we had expected. The town showed clear signs of being cleaned up, with several supply distribution points set up along the roadside. Everyone in line could receive a meat pie. Those willing to live in the town could get one every day, while outsiders could only get one. I rolled down the window and heard an elderly woman in line cheerfully telling the person behind her, "We're not going to the southern base. It's great here. People in this town get 3 meat pies and a bottle of water every day, and they even assign us places to live. There are no zombie attacks, they protect us. Yutong, should we go get one too?" Su Rushwan patted my seat and asked curiously. I shook my head. "We need to leave the town quickly." Hearing this, Shen Qian prepared to drive out. Su Rushwan didn't understand why, but she didn't ask. Suddenly, a group of people blocked our way. A middle-aged man came up to Shen Qian's car with a smile and tapped on the window. I signaled Shen Qian to roll it down. "Ladies, it's getting dark. We have accommodations and some food set up for travelers. How about staying the night and heading out tomorrow?" I glanced at the crowd blocking the road ahead and the people distributing supplies on the roadside. With so many of them around, it wasn't a good time to force our way through. Better to go along for now and see what happens. "All right, we'll stay for one night." The man led us to a hotel building with parking spots outside. After Shen Qian parked, we followed him to a room on the 3rd floor. I insisted on all 4 of us sharing one room, so he arranged a twin bedroom. I locked the door, drew the curtains, and called the others into the pocket dimension. "Something's off here. Be careful, don't eat or drink anything they give us. We'll split into 2 groups and take turns keeping watch." "But I heard that auntie say it's nice here, handing out food and drinks with so many people lining up," Su Rushwan said, finally voicing her earlier doubts now that we were inside the pocket dimension. Yemo answered her. "That's exactly why it feels wrong. Look at this chaos, yet that middle-aged man is well-fed and sturdy. And those guys who blocked our car have healthy complexions too. Don't let your guard down, Rushwan." Su Rushwan nodded, half understanding. After we left the pocket dimension, someone brought us meat pies and water. We poured out the water and tossed the pies. I set up the shifts. Yemo and Su Rushwan would take the first half of the night, while Shen Qian and I took the second. At 2 a.m., Su Rushwan woke us up, signaling that someone outside was trying to open the security chain on the door. Shen Qian and I hid behind the door while Su Rushwan and Yemo pretended to sleep on the 2 beds. The chain came off quickly, and 2 men entered. Just as they were about to pull back the covers and grab the people in bed, Su Rushwan and Yemo jumped up and swung the sticks they had prepared, hitting them hard. Shen Qian and I joined the fight. After the 2 men were knocked out, I told Su Rushwan to slit their throats. Then we heard a child scream from the next room. I rushed over and saw a man carrying a little girl toward the door. The girl was crying and struggling, trying to climb down from his arms. I charged in, knocked the man unconscious, and rescued the girl. When I saw the little girl's face, I froze. This was the same little girl I had handed bread to in my past life. She was very cute, with tears still hanging on her face. Her little hands clutched my clothes, and her body kept trembling. In my past life, it was because I saw her parents trying to sell her for food, and the hollow, helpless look in her eyes at that moment, that I felt a pang of compassion. Shen Qian stepped forward and patted me. "Yutong, what's wrong?" I shook my head. "Nothing. I just saved a little girl from those people." Shen Qian wanted to pat the little girl's head, but the girl resisted, dodging Shen Qian while still clinging to me. The situation was urgent now. They would likely notice something was wrong soon, so we had to leave quickly. I decided to take the little girl with us first and figure out what to do once we reached the base. Luckily, the car was still where we left it. We quickly got in, and since the little girl wouldn't let anyone else touch her, Shen Qian had to drive. Just as we drove out of the parking lot, the middle-aged man showed up again with a group of people to block us. They stood at the entrance and exit, holding guns. This time, he didn't bother pretending. Where do you ladies think you're going? I pulled out the gun I had scavenged from the gas station earlier and pointed it at the middle-aged man. Let us go. Or I'll shoot. The middle-aged man leered at us. Oh, quite the tough little girl. Huh. Go ahead. Shoot. In my past life, I was lucky enough to find a gun beside a corpse. It was because of that gun that I survived in the underground parking lot. I had used it to kill several perverted men, and after that, no one dared to harass me. I covered the little girl's ears and fired a shot at the middle-aged man's leg. He clutched his leg, grimacing in pain. I told Shen Qian to drive straight through, and the men blocking the way scattered, allowing us to get out smoothly. Shen Qian floored the accelerator, not daring to slow down, and we sped out of the town. The moment we left the town, we all breathed a sigh of relief. Good thing we listened to Yutong. That town really was trouble, Su Ruxuan said, clutching her chest. What do you think they would have done with us if we had been taken? Now that they were out of the town, Su Ruxuan's boldness returned. Yi Mo looked at Su Ruxuan and spoke coldly. Either serve those men or end up as meat patties. Su Ruxuan shuddered and rubbed her arms. Wait. You mean those meat patties were? No way. Yi Mo nodded. Exactly what you're thinking. Su Ruxuan made a gagging motion. And I was about to take one. Yutong, you saved my life. I owe you forever. Su Ruxuan clasped her hands in a salute. The car was filled with laughter, and we drove all the way to the southern base. Once we arrived at the southern base, I immediately reported the situation in the town to the government forces. The government forces took a large group of people to the town and wiped out those people. They were locals, former thugs, and hooligans. When the apocalypse came, the local leaders saw the situation spiraling out of control and fled. So they came up with a twisted plan. First, they organized a group of young men to kill zombies, then pretended to be government forces to lure outsiders into staying. Young, pretty women were usually taken to serve the men, while those who didn't comply or were older were turned into meat patties. Men were generally kept as laborers and gradually coerced into joining their ranks. The little girl came to this town with her parents. They were also taken away after eating meat pies and drinking water. Just as we suspected, the water was drugged, but her parents didn't leave any for her, so the little girl woke up immediately when she was captured. However, her parents were likely in grave danger. Before the government rescue operation, I asked the little girl if she wanted to find her parents. She shook her head. Later, I sent the little girl to the children's shelter at the survivor base. We would visit her often, and she gradually became more cheerful, slowly starting to talk to us on her own. We stayed at the base for a few months before we were reunited with our own families. All four of us were finally with our loved ones. A year later, government researchers developed a vaccine, and the devastated world slowly began to recover. We walked out of the base and, seeing the long-lost neon-lit world, couldn't help but shed tears. On this land, we worked, fell in love, got married, traveled, and lived our own remarkable lives. The pain of the past did not simply fade away. Instead, it became the nourishment for our resilience.